going to
Right,
environment.
ladies, thanks very much for coming along and congratulations on your appointments and your first estimates. Just on the national DVO process, who's driving that? Is that you or AGs or DSS?
Well, Senator, it's a joint effort between the Commonwealth and relevant agencies within the Commonwealth and state and territory governments. It's an action that was agreed by COAG, and we're working very closely within the federal government, but also in close coordination with states and territories.
Okay. Is there a lead agency of all of those three?
I would have to take that on notice. We coordinate, the Office for Women coordinates that action. So the Attorney General's Department would have a role in the Commonwealth Government, but I'm not sure of all of the various state departments.
That's okay. I'm not so worried about the states, just about who in the federal
Sure.
The normal
zoo.
process for a COAG is that First Minister's departments are responsible because it's the Australian government's Prime Minister and Cabinet would have a lead role working with the other departments like Attorney Generals who might have primary carriage of the content, but because it's a COAG process, certainly across Australia, First Minister's departments play the kind of coordinating role.
Okay,
But you're
so
right, sorry, from the Commonwealth perspective,
Yeah.
Department of Social Services and the Attorney General's Department in relation to the National DVO scheme.
Okay.
Yeah.
And PMC, is that what you just said?
Yeah,
As well
so
as Office for
Prime
Women?
Minister and Cabinet, as Office for Women as part of Prime Minister and Cabinet, are part of the kind of lead COAG role.
Okay.
And then there's the coordination across across the Commonwealth.
Thank you. So can I just clarify, are you saying that PM&C that's not Office of Women also have a role, or you're taking the lead for PM&C in coordinating DSS and AG? Is there four or three in the mix? Is there 3 or 4 in the
The Department of
mix?
Indigenous Affairs, which sits within PMC, you're saying wouldn't have a role. Is it?
I just want to know who's got a role. Have I got all of them? AGs,
Yes.
DSS and Office
And
for
Office of
Women?
Women.
Who else am I adding, if any? Is PM&C added in as a fourth, or
So
is that
PMC
dealt
would
with
be
under
Office of Women. Sorry,
Women? That's what I'm trying to
The term is
establish.
used interchangeably.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay, thank you. So just the 3
Yes.
Commonwealth agencies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Office of Women is PM&C. Sorry,
Yes.
the term is
You
obviously
use it
used
interchangeably.
interchangeably.
Okay, thank you. So you're coordinating the process, you said. Are you having any input into the content?
To the extent that it's relevant in terms of our liaison with the Department of Social Services, with the Attorney General's Department. So PM&C has primary carriage in terms of the COAG process, but in terms of the actual content, those other departments would have the lead.
But so, Senator, this also predates some of Ms Bloomfield's time in the department, but yes, the Office for Women is also part of the executive committee run by CrimTrack, which is doing the prototype for the National DVO Information Sharing Scheme, which is a core part of the National DVO system.
Thank you.
So, yes.
I had thought that there was an agreement that model legislation would be considered at the April meeting. That April meeting then got deferred to May, and we've had that last week, I think. Was there model or draft legislation put to that meeting?
Not to the COAG meeting, Senator. I think you might be referring to that the model framework going to the LISCI committee. Sorry, I can't think of the spell out of the acronym, but it's the legal committee that sits that is a COAG committee, and I would have to take on notice exactly when that meeting was held, but there has certainly been in the course of this year already information that's gone to that committee on the model framework.
Thank you. Sounds like there's multiple committees. I'm just interested in whether there's draft legislation yet.
I think I'll have to take that on notice.
So, yeah, and what was agreed by COAG is that they would agree the National Domestic Violence Order Scheme by the end of 2015.
Yes.
And so, obviously, the committees are currently looking at how you get the mirror legislation, which is separate, obviously, to what CrimTrack is doing.
Yes, I'm not
parallel,
focused
good.
on CrimTrack, just at the minute. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, committed to having the legal framework in place by the
Correct.
end of 2015.
That's the recognition,
my
exactly, of the DVO.
What does that mean? Do you mean actually having the legislation enacted in each state and territory that happens to be model national legislation? Like, what are you considering delivering a legal framework to actually mean?
So you literally would legally recognise, unless the officers are going to correct me, the DVO scheme. So, for example,
Done and dusted, passed in the
a
Parliament,
Western
up and
Australian
running.
is actually DVO would be recognised in New South
Yes.
Wales.
Okay. So finished, enacted,
Yep.
in place. Okay. And so I'll come back to my earlier question. So do we have draft legislation yet, as at now, given that the end of the year's approaching?
Just to make a minor correction, what I
Yeah, those are-
anticipate is that the model legislation will be completed, but it will actually be up to each of the jurisdictions will need to
yeah.
pass that legislation.
Yep.
And so while obviously people are hoping that all of this is in place by the end of the year, it would be normal that you get, obviously, focus in on getting the model legislation, but then all the parliaments will need to kind of go
Yeah.
through their processes and
So
pass it.
do we have draft model legislation yet?
I think Ms Wilkie said
We'll
we'll
have
take
to
that
take
on
that on
notice.
notice.
LISC only met
Perhaps the
last
Minister might know the answer to
Friday.
that?
Yes.
I think, they only met last Friday, so we'll take it on
Yeah.
notice to see what actually came out of the meeting for you.
Yeah.
Okay, because I understood that the ambition was to have that model draft legislation go to LISC in April, and we're now almost at the end of May, and you really have to take that on notice as
No,
you
so
don't know
my
if there's
understanding
draft
was
model
that
legislation.
the agreement by COAG was that by the end of 2015,
Yeah.
there would be the agreement for the National Domestic Violence Order Scheme, and that's what's currently being worked through.
Yes, I understand the broad commitment at the end of the year, but there was an agreement with the Law, Crime and Community Safety Council,
Risky.
LISCI, that there would be model legislation considered at the April meeting. That meeting didn't happen in April, it happened in May. And you said, in fact, it happened last Friday.
My understanding is it was last
Did
Friday.
they consider draft
I
model
would need to take that
legislation?
on notice for you.
Okay, nobody knows. We'll find out later. Great.
No, that's actually not correct, that nobody knows.
Well, none of these people know. I'd like to
No,
know.
it might be you need to ask the Attorney General's Department
Okay,
as to what
well,
actually
that's
occurred
useful.
there. Sorry,
I
if you
will
could ask
ask
the
them
Attorney
then.
General's Department, yeah.
Okay, I'll ask them then. I don't care who tells me. I just want an answer.
No, Senator.
Just checking, who was at the meeting? Was anyone from the Office of Women at the meeting last
It
Friday?
wouldn't be normal for
That
to
wasn't my
attend.
question.
Yeah.
Was
Understand.
anyone at the
No,
meeting?
Senator.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chair. So can I ask, just on a different matter now, how many submissions or briefings the Office of Women has provided to the PM's office in the past 12 months?
I'd have to take that on notice, Senator.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a ballpark estimation that I won't rely on until I get your on notice
I
response?
think that
No,
is
I
something the
really
officers
don't.
would have to take.
Yeah, I
on
really
notice.
wouldn't want to.
No idea at all. Okay. Moving to the PPL change that's proposed in the budget, which Senator Moore was asking extensively about. Prior to that change being included in the budget, I'm interested in which peak or industry bodies or non-government organisations the Office of Women consulted in relation to that proposed change.
Senator, it is not normal for departments, unless it's part of the cabinet process, for consultation to occur about the particular measures in the budget. And obviously, I think as we've just traversed, the Office for Women role is to provide advice, and it was participating as part of PMNC in a range of meetings, interdepartmental committees, etc., in providing advice.
Okay, so the answer to that is none. You didn't do any consultation because that's not
I don't
normal.
think that was
Is
the
that
answer
right?
of the official. I think
I don't want to verbal you. I'm genuinely
Exactly.
seeking to understand.
That we
Excuse me, Senator McKenzie. I'm trying to understand what they're saying.
I ignore the interjections.
I'll
That's
try
the easiest
to.
way,
They're
Senator.
very
at the end of that,
And if
the
we wait for
officials
the minister
obviously
to
cannot
answer.
comment on the nature of the advice, and that would include any consultations undertaken.
Okay, because I took you to be saying it wasn't normal for you to do that work, as opposed to you can't tell me because that's advice to minister.
It wouldn't be normal for unless the government had specifically asked on a budget measure to be going out and doing kind of external consultations.
And I'm not allowed to ask
any-
if they did ask you to do that. Is that
well,
right?
Any advice that we went and privately sought is advice to government.
Right, okay, thank you. Moving on to the workforce gender diversity requirements that need to be met by companies when they seek government
Would you?
tenders.
The Workforce Gender Equality Agency?
Okay, well, I've got questions for them as well when they're here later in the week. But what role does Office for Women play, if any, in the administration of those guidelines?
Senator, do you mean the
Government
gender
procurement
equality
rules.
requirements that are part of the procurement guidelines?
Yes.
Those are the responsibility of the Department of Finance.
Department of Finance, okay. So you don't have a role in their formulation or administration or
No, Senator.
review, nothing to do with you whatsoever?
We would expect to be consulted if they were going to undertake a review of them.
Okay.
That would be in the general course of Prime Minister and Cabinet being consulted in that sort of review is a general, as part of the general course of events
The
from
normal
Department of
process
Finance.
even.
That's right, yeah.
Because
Okay.
their operation occurs within the Department of Finance, where the Office for Women wouldn't normally participate in those operational
That
matters.
phrase. Thank you. I will take that up with them. And just one final line of questioning. Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the money that was announced from the recent COAG meeting, the 30 million for the national campaign. Is that the awareness raising campaign that
Correct,
you
yeah, the National
announced?
Awareness Raising Campaign
Yes,
coming out of
okay.
COAG, $30 million.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more detail around the shape of that campaign as yet?
I would refer to DSS, or no,
It's still, the campaign is, we're still in consultation and discussion, certainly with the state and territory governments, around the shape of that campaign.
Okay, but correct me if I'm wrong, my recollection was it was a social media targeted campaign for
not necessarily.
for youth.
That's the consultations that are going to be looked at. You know,
Okay.
what is the best form of campaign,
To reach
given
that
where technology is in
target
2015 as
age.
opposed to where it's, previously been.
Okay, thank you. Did the Office for Women provide input into that COAG communique?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. And has there been any modelling done either by your office or that you're aware of about the projected increase on demand for services as a result of increased awareness?
The Department of Social Services has. You would need to ask them, but I'm aware that yes, they have commenced looking at that. I'm also aware that some of the states and territories have raised that issue with us as well, and it may be that they have done some analysis
Okay.
around that as well. But certainly at the Commonwealth level, that question is best directed to DSS.
All right, thank you. I'll
And
take-
just on the campaign, in terms of the national awareness raising, it's probably better to say national awareness campaign, because again, some of the consultations will be going to, is it actually awareness you want to raise, or should the campaign be better focused, say, on primary prevention? And again, that is part of the consultations that are currently being
Oh, I
under-
see. Okay,
Yes,
so I didn't
know it's
realise it
national
was
awareness
such a
raising.
broad consultation.
Yeah, but possibly national awareness campaign is a better way to actually state what the campaign will
Okay,
be.
could include
And
primary
is the
prevention.
focus going to be, for example, on primary prevention? That is the nature of the
Okay,
consultations.
and with that, can I just advise